Hi there, I'm Sandy Allnock here for MFT stamps with the latest in the Create in Color segment. This time I'm going to use the Which Way is the Candy set, the brand new re-release. They're re-upping this stamp set because everybody loved it so much. They've got new sentiments and it's just all spruced up and polished for 2017. I've stamped the images, first the little girl, then the cat, then the frog, and then I did the pumpkin in between, just masking each part of it so that I could stamp the images so they look like they're behind them. And I've stamped them all, of course, in the MFT hybrid licorice ink onto some white, just plain old white smooth cardstock to do some Copic coloring. And I'm giving her some strong shading in her face because that hat is a big old floppy hat and it sticks way out, so you want to have a nice big shadow across there if you want to communicate that big old floppiness. So that's why she has a giant shadow across her little green face. The froggy I'm going to color while I have my greens out. Sometimes I proceed just through one image and do the whole image itself and then move to the others. And other times I just start coloring all the things that I think are going to be green. And there's other times still where I try to figure out a couple of green touches to have around the whole thing and then go back and make sure that they're all spaced out nicely and I have them in different spots. But there's no real rule to it. Just just color as you wish, because this is supposed to be fun, right? I decided to make her hair purple, and I'm going to give her hair the same strong shadow across there. And since the underside of that hat is going to be dark, I'm not even worrying about being outside the lines a little bit. She has a little dark hair right underneath her neck, and that's going to make it look like it's receding back behind her neck. And then I'll use a couple colors to blend that. And I'm not blending that hard edge on the hair from the hat because it can stay a little bit on the sharp side because that's a really strong shadow and it's just going to create an interesting effect that way. So I am now going to color the hat. I decided the hat will be your standard black because I know a lot of people would probably make the girl's hair black, but I made it purple. So now I'm stuck with trying to figure out all my other colors. I didn't really have a plan for this, although I will say when I'm done, very happy with it. But some people will do the hair and the cape and the hat and everything black, and then you end up with a lot of just a big black blob. So I was trying to figure out how to balance the colors. And at this point, I was even thinking to myself, why did I do this? I have no idea what color I'm going to make that dress. But I'm going to proceed with the parts that I know, because the hat's going to be black. And look how nice and dark that hat is, but I left some highlights, ironically, at the bottom, because there might be some light that's going past the brim of the hat and shining on the back end of the hat. So it's going to give it a little bit of a glow from underneath or from behind, sort of, as we do this. So now the hat on the top is just going to have your normal shading. The light's coming from the upper left, so it's going to have the shading on the right. And then underneath her cape, she's going to have, of course, lots of dark under there, but I'll leave that corner flipping out into the light. So I'll leave a little bit of lighter color there. I did forget to color the other half of her cape, so I just made it all the really dark color and a few streaks of color on the front side of the cape. And then I'll start doing some blending of the other colors. Now notice that I didn't leave white highlights in the black things. Lots of folks do, and that gives you one kind of a look. I like a natural look, and that's what this gives me, is to have lots of dark, rich colors, but not leave white. Because if you looked at a black hat, unless it's a shiny hat made of plastic, you wouldn't actually see a highlight. Same thing with hair or clothing or anything else. So it depends on what kind of look you're looking for. So this C5 then just lets me blend everything in. And now I decided on purple for her dress, at least the bottom half of her dress, and I'll pull some other colors in later. And then figured, okay, she can have purple boots, because then those will stand out against the background behind them. Because if I made them black, they'd also blend right in. And then I decided to put that hard shadow on the left from her cape that's hanging over the top of her dress. So you'll notice her dress just has some little highlights toward that front section, and it gives it some real dimension that way. For the rest of her outfit, I thought I'd throw in some orange and some green, just to add some more Halloween-y colors in here. And then for shading, if you've got a bunch of little parts like this, just use a gray. Don't bother yourself with trying to find 3 colors that are going to make each one of those blend well, because it's just a little tiny area. A little bit of gray goes a long way. So since my light is coming from the right-hand side, I was kind of just checking to see where my shadows were going to be. There's going to be a long shadow behind the cat, so there's not much highlight on that pumpkin. And the pumpkin, by the way, if you don't want to mask all that out, you could just draw in a few lines for a pumpkin. But one of the reasons I did stamp this the way that I did and I put the pumpkin under there is I wanted the frog kind of up into the scene. I didn't want to put it down beside or put it in front of her because I liked her boots. But I wanted him to be part of it, and if I lift him up and then put the pumpkin under there, it allows the whole scene to be more condensed. A lot of times we end up putting everything in a line right next to each other all the way across a card, and I really wanted to have something where it was all sort of contained in the middle, so it didn't sprawl out quite as much. Because since I'm not going to do a scene behind this one, I wanted to have the characters at least be really interactive. And I did have to be careful to make sure that the eyeballs on the frog stuck out, because you don't want one eyeball hiding behind her. That would be weird. So I'm coloring my other black objects now, my bat and my kitty cat, as you saw. And yes, I did forget to do the kitty cat's bow tie. I'll catch that later. But I'm going to use the same colors on my bat, just give him a little bit of dimension. Because right now I'm pretty happy with the witch. She's so adorable, and the scene itself is really cute. So don't even stress too much about the coloring on the rest of the image. Keep the main thing the main thing. If there's some areas where you really put time and attention, then focus on those. If there's other areas where you kind of goof, don't worry about it. You're the only one who's going to know. And if any of your Instagram friends comment on what you might have messed up or might have not done as well, then you should unfollow them. Because nobody else will notice this. And if they do, they're not your friend. So now what's left is finishing off a few last touches. So I'm going to do the broom, give myself a little bit of dimension by doing some flicks of darker brown to give a little bit more to the straw. And then I decided on making the broomstick a little bit darker. And then I want to put a shadow behind it. So I'm putting the shadow kind of touching all these objects, but look at how that little shadow from the broom, not touching the shadow from her feet and from her cape, makes it look dimensional. That tiny little touch. So I dare you to try that tiny little touch. For the eyeballs, I'm leaving a little bit of a sea of a highlight there on them, and then that's that. There are two brand new and really fun die sets. These are stitched rectangle dies. There's two sets, so they're slightly different from each other, so if you get both, you have every size you ever need. And I love nothing better than a plain finished off panel, because you might know me, I don't embellish a ton. And having these dies is going to allow me all kinds of flexibility, and I'm very excited about that. So thanks so much for joining me. Go visit the blog, go visit my blog, and I will see you guys later on. Bye-bye. Have a great month.